Time to watch some TV and relax. No. Seen it. Seen it. Huh. I thought this got cancelled 2 years ago. What the heck? And I'll catch up later. Wait. What's this?
Hey, you!
Me?
Yes, you! The guy watching this commercial. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted a character that's one-note and annoying? Characters whose only purpose is to be voted out early so you can work on more interesting characters?
I never thought of doing that. Tell me more.
Do you want a character that has much depth at the bird bath and is nothing more than villain fodder? Then I've got the product for you. The Bland Character-O-Meter. It gives you a character with all those traits of the Pokemon's type or species, playing no part in the character. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want a Skinny. Now, no way you want it to grow and develop, but nope. Look at this shit. Look at it. The poor sap's already dug his own grave. That's only episode 1. You can't make this stuff up, folks.
Dear Arceus.
If you like this fantastic product, phone 1-800-DON'T CALL THIS number and don't do this trope. That's 1-800-DON'T CALL THIS number and don't do this trope. We hope you enjoy your product.
Maybe I should. I'm not doing that. Now this is where it's at. Hi guys, Aiden Care, aka the Crazy Chandelure here. Time for another episode of TPI Talk. Sorry it has been a while, but this is actually the second recording that we're doing of this one because the first one kind of got corrupted and there's an issue with it, which was kind of my fault. But regardless, we're back, and today I am joined with a very special guest. Please introduce yourself.
What's up, everyone? I'm Teddy Garmon, and today we're here to discuss throwaway characters, which are basically characters that exist for the sole purpose of leaving early.
Yeah, they're basically, as Teddy says, they're I can't really give a better definition than that. They're like your first boots, or like your first couple of boots that you use either just because you need to boot someone off first, or you want to establish your villain.
They usually don't have much character aside from that, which is generally why they tend to leave early. They're either they don't have much character to them, or they're genuinely like unlikable.
Or they're like your comic relief, and then you think, okay, this has kind of gone on for a bit too long. I don't want to put this past the first second or third episode, so I'm just gonna get rid of them.
Yeah, so what I can say about throwaway characters is that just don't make the elimination so obvious. Try to make it so that there's multiple candidates to be up for elimination at that time. There's multiple people that screwed up. There's you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, there's not just that character can go home. So if you've got your first character that's being booted, and they're the sole reason why your team has the team they're on has lost the challenge, then that's a pretty obvious elimination.
Not only that, but it's more of a red flag for the beginning of the series, because the beginning of the series it basically structures the first impression it's supposed to give.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are cases.
If you first
oh, you go first.
Oh, sorry. You continue.
You can go first. It's fine.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about this. So I can't even remember what I was going to say now. You go first.
Okay, fine. I was going to say that, there are cases of this where it's been done well. For example, Bayo's Eevee, she was the nice girl Eevee, as everyone in the chat memes about. She was a nice girl Eevee. You would have thought she would make it far, but no. Rattata basically, he routed votes against her, and she was actually the one that left first over Makuhita, who actually made their team lose.
Rattata just dropped his no U card, just sent Eevee
That's
packing.
exactly his no U card.
And that's, I think, a good
Another thing. He did that in episode Uno.
Yeah, because you don't have to always have your first boot in episode 1. Because I feel like if you're gonna have your first boots and your throwaway characters, try and make them interesting. You don't have to eliminate someone in episode 1. You could just have episode 1 to establish your characters.
Exactly.
And then you could have episode 2 be the one where you eliminate your first contestant, because that gives you time to actually give the first boots and throwaway characters something to define them aside from I like breadsticks.
Yeah, and not only that, but like Sarcastic Slow King, in his second season, there were actually 2 episodes where no one left because he established the characters, which is it's really respectable, but still, there was still one character who was Drudagon. It was obvious he would leave, but then he came back.
Yeah,
I felt like,
and you don't always have to bring back your first boot because you want to like add more development to them. Because add-ons, add-ons can be done well, but you don't have to do them. Like, don't feel pressurized. Like, don't watch Matt or Sarcastic Slow King bring back Drudagon and been like, oh, so I eliminated Skitty first. Let's bring her back.
yeah, you don't particularly have to do that. If you feel it's necessary, then I guess you can. But like, if it's not necessary for this character to be developed any further, then there's no need.
Yeah, because you can just, like, as we said, you need to just give the character something and have a bit of time to let it happen.
Otherwise,
if
you don't think
that in one episode, yeah, because like you'll make the eliminations predictable. But if you don't think that you can do that in one episode, just have the first episode be introductions, or do what Telly did for AXE, where like there was like a 2-part challenge. The first episode was just the introducing the characters, have the characters get to know each other and their teams, and then the challenge starts, and like the first half of the challenge, and then the next episode's the other half of the challenge.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example.
So there are many ways that you can do this, differently than just the basic boot character. Another one which I saw, which I thought was quite good. I don't even know if this can technically be counted as first boot or not. I'm just trying to get the name of the TPI up. Let's see, where is it?
It's hosted by, I could probably tell you who it was.
It was trying to get their channel name. You know the guy that did Total Pokemon Saltine Island?
Oh yeah, that guy?
Yeah, Vibby, yeah. So what Vibby did for his first elimination was he had, I believe it was Carbink, for his series, Total Pokemon Castaways. What he did for his first elimination was admittedly, she did mess up, but she didn't lose the challenge for her team, and she was established to be a bit crazy. And then she sunk the this kind of spoilers, but she sunk the cruise ship that they were all on after they got off it. It sunk after they got off it. And then the host of the series, Bravery, he just booted her off the show, but she escaped into the place that they were in, or the island.
Well, that's because no one bothered to catch her.
Yeah, so that's a decent example of a first boot, because it wasn't really predictable. You thought that they were gonna end the episode there, and then just suddenly you get the character booted off.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's a more recent one, so it's not because I feel like it's gotten better, because the bad first boots, the predictable ones, they're much more of an older thing compared to the other issues that we've discussed in TPI talk, villains and stuff like that. Well, that's kind of a problem of the past, but you still do see it in some TPIs.
And you can also do predictable first boots that are executed well. For example, in Abandoned, Skitty was the first boot. She was, it was really predictable that she would leave, but she actually had a lot of build-up. She was the fangirl of the season, and you would expect that kind of character to get far, but she was actually the first boot because she annoyed her team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, you can give these characters something. And also, if you do have a throwaway character, because you also get, on the other hand, characters that are really one note that make it really far into the series. Don't do that.
Yeah,
please.
Exactly. Don't do that. There'll be no reason why they're still there.
Bringing up AXE again, which I know I've already done once, but for example, Feraligatr seemed a bit one note at first because of her whole cheesecake thing. But as the series went on, Telly like added more stuff to her character to make her more than just lol cheesecake.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a pretty good example as well. See, it all depends on the first impression of the show. If the first boot is predictable and they don't really have much to them, then that's not really gonna have then you're not really gonna have the best first impression on your show, which is everything if you want to start a TPI.
Yeah, because if your show doesn't get noticed like starting off, it's a bit harder for it to actually pick up ground later. And we're not saying that you have to be like amazing at the start. Like your first episode has to tick all the boxes, cross all the I's. It doesn't like you can grow as you develop your season on. I think Teddy himself is actually a really good example of this because his more recent episodes have been absolutely amazing. So you can get better as you continue to work on your show, but you still need to make sure that you don't have any throwaway characters or your first boot isn't like really obvious as some shows tend to be.
In all fairness, I did this also, but I've learned from that.
Exactly. And Teddy's show is still picking up, like it's getting more popular. So once again, just because you do like a bad first boot does not mean that your show is like bad or anything.
It doesn't affect your quality later on, but it's good to have a good first impression on your show.
Yeah. Even though they're not the absolute, first impressions do matter. So you need to make sure that your first boot is at least a little bit interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, you don't want a character to be kind of booted out of nowhere. Like, as we were saying with Bayo Cakes, he like hinted that Rattata was going after Eevee like earlier on in the episode. Like once he saw that Eevee and Pikachu were like kind of getting buddy, he was like, "Oh, I'm shutting this down immediately."
Yeah, exactly. He predicted it was going to be a power couple. I say he predicted right, and he made the move, and he got rid of someone who could potentially have been a major threat later.
Exactly, because even though Pikachu didn't like Eevee at that point, he could have grown to, and then having them together would have like really screwed everyone over. Well, like everyone that wasn't them.
That's true.
But like as I was saying, you can't have it come out of nowhere. Like for example, let's say, because I know we've been bringing up Skitty a lot because she's been in our little intro skit. But let's say Skitty like did really bad in the challenge, and she's I don't know, she punched someone in the face for no reason. I don't know.
Great example.
I don't know what kind of character we're giving Skitty here. I'm just rolling with it.
Skitty's just like another Tyrantrum.
Skitty's just been an absolute bitch the entire time. And now it's time for the elimination ceremony, and Chespin goes home. Like, Chespin's just been really chill. He contributed in the challenge. He's a nice guy. And he's just, like, sent home out of nowhere. And Skitty's completely safe with no repercussions. That is also a bad boot. Because even though you've given Chespin more to work with than Skitty, you still just threw him away just for the sake of having drama. And I will do a later TPI talk on this, like, just, like, subverting expectations for, like, the sake of doing it. But that's also a throwaway character. Just, like, keeping one character around, but just completely throwing the other character out of the bus, like, out of nowhere.
And there's also, it's funny you bring that up, because like I immediately drew comparisons to this with Meanfu and Magby from Abandoned, where it was basically the complete opposite. Magby was he didn't exactly do so well in the challenge, but it was Meanfu who went home because she was a bitch.
Yeah. Which, once again, that was a pretty good elimination, because it makes sense for that to happen. There's also the build-up to people thinking that Meanfu was like a physical threat. But, like, the whole thing is, even if you're, like, sending a character home that isn't a throwaway character, still don't make it predictable or don't make it, like, come out of absolutely nowhere. Exactly. Anything can be done well as long as you execute it well. But please don't have your first episode suffer from Game of Thrones-itis. So, to summarize our points, you can't, like, when you're doing your first episode, just make sure that you're, even if it's not your first episode that you're like eliminating someone, just make sure there's build up to the elimination. There's reason for it. You give your character something to work with that's not just like a one-off like joke or like a one-note character. Like give them something before you send them home.
To be fair, we all have this kind of character in some form, but it depends on how they're displayed in the game. You can have this kind of character if they're displayed well, but if they're not, then it doesn't really help your show in that regard.
Yeah. So that's basically what we wanted to say about this. I would like to thank Teddy for coming on the show and thank him for putting up with the whole previous file being corrupted thing.
No problem.
And you can check out Teddy's channel in the description below. He's recently put out his newest episode of his show, Total Pokemon Survivor Island, which you can check out down below. I'll leave a link to that as well, his most recent episode. And I would like to thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you on the next episode of TPI Talk.